your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Chrissie is hilarious.
Chrissie, have you ever heard of the comedian Basha K. Ali?
No, that sounds like something you yell at before you blow up a plane.
Basha K. Ali!
30 seconds remaining.
But you know what good thing to say? I dabbled in stand-up or something. I haven't even disrespected you at all.
I was very confused by the title, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that's also what we call it when Ash takes off his shirt. I shouldn't be up here. I should be in school on the other side of the ocean. Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. Tonight's stream is very special. We will be live watching and commenting on Lauren Southern's full hearing in Canadian Parliament, the Russian disinformation witch hunt involving herself and Tenet Media. And joining me, you know him, you love him, one of the smartest people I know, here to help comment, Mr. Ron Coleman.
Chrissie, what a pleasure. And as smart as I am, I really had to brush up on my Canadian to get ready for this.
Just been doing shots of maple syrup while you were waiting.
Well, no, because you're going to see the question of what constitutes a Canadian language is going to be one of the highlights of this.
Oh my God. Right. That and I did briefly, I watched and skipped over some of this, but I haven't watched the whole thing yet.
Neither,
and
no.
I've seen some of the highlights. I don't know if you guys in the chat have seen this yet. I'm going to bring up, because I saw Viva Fry posted the footage in its entirety on his YouTube. Here was Viva Fry's comments that I'll just share really quickly. Here's the full hearing of Lauren Southern answering questions from Parliament about Russian disinformation regarding Tenet Media, the Tenet Media scandal, right, which happened a couple months ago now. And since it happened, I think, Lauren Southern, I haven't seen much or heard much of anybody involved. Obviously, Tim Pool is still doing his Timcast and all his normal streams, but I don't think he has. I think he put out a statement right when it happens, as well as Benny Johnson, like, hey, we had no idea about any of this. We were just simply hired to make content. Viva then goes on to say, recall the Russian Tenet Media nonsense. 2 alleged RT representatives indicted for allegedly financing Lauren Chen's Tenet Media to propagate Russian disinformation through popular right-wing commentators. Lauren Chen was subpoenaed by Parliament. She basically pleaded the Canadian equivalent of the Fifth. Southern didn't. She answered, and she was amazing. It is a must-watch, not only because it's an Orwellian, Kafkaesque nightmare. I always love when you can describe something as Kafkaesque, but because it highlights how utterly stupid, corrupt, and incompetent our elected officials are. Like, they are truly stupid, truly the bottom of the barrel, unintelligent, lazy bureaucrats. This is what happens when good people are deterred from entering politics. We end up getting governed by unintelligent and or corrupt narcissists. And this is and Ron, when you have a thought, just say pause, and we will pause. And from what I've seen so far, these people are they truly know so little about social media. It is embarrassing for them. And it just seems like they want to get her on literally anything.
And then, okay, finally. Good. Thank you for your patience, Ms. Southern. So pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted on September 19th, 2024, the committee resumes its study of Russian interference and disinformation campaigns in Canada. I'd like to now welcome our witness today, Ms. Lauren Southern. Ms. Southern, for your benefit, I'd like to specify that the testimony of yourself or of any witness is protected by parliamentary privilege. The House of Commons procedure practice states the following. Witnesses appearing before the committees enjoy the same freedom of speech and protection from arrest and molestation as do members of
Did
Parliament.
he say molestation?
Before we proceed, I do have to inform the committee that the summons could not be served to Liam Donovan. So the committee can decide if
That's
they want
Lauren Chen's
to take
husband.
any action there. And we're going to move on to questions. Oh, sorry. Oh, we're going to move on to opening statements first. Ms. Southern, your opening statement, please.
Thank you. Honorable Chair, esteemed members of this committee, I would like to thank you for so enthusiastically inviting me to speak today. My name is Lauren Southern. I am a filmmaker, a YouTuber, and a proud Canadian. In late 2023, I was contracted to make weekly videos by a startup company called Tenet Media.
Take a breath. Take a breath, Lauren.
U.S.
Take a
Department of Justice releasing
She's not breathing enough.
She it's like, this is not a woman who has never spoken in public before.
Right.
She seems nervous.
Who?
And she seems naked.
She's
If you-
sleeveless. Maybe that's because it's hot in there.
Sleeveless in Parliament, man? Is that?
I mean, it's not the Vatican, Ron.
But it's not like a real country either. Okay. I just,
uh,
right, come on,
yeah,
let's-
she's probably more. Yeah,
a titre personnel.
un titre
Everything's going to be in Canadian and English. Okay. Okay. I'm ready
Canadian, otherwise known as French. Yes. Okay. You know,
I think like she seems like I know she's not going to pass out from lack of oxygen, but she does seem a little nervous.
She does. Who wouldn't be though? This is like it's like 12 against 1 here, and
But like it's
a witch
Canadian
hunt.
Parliament. All right, whatever. No, I mean she's been in much. I think Lauren. Can you hear me? Okay, my microphone was just up in the sky. Is that better?
yeah, you sound good.
Okay, but I look good, and that's the main thing. You know?
You look good. You feel good.
Lauren, no, I forgot what the gag was. Except on my own gag. Okay, let's.
That it's Canadian Parliament. It's not regular Parliament.
It's not like a real country, but we already
Right.
did that one. Okay.
No,
Thank
it's
you.
not. But she knows what this is. It's a friggin' witch hunt. They just want to get her for anything. This is a waste of her time, right? She's probably thinking about how much
babysitter. More
babysitter.
obvious as we listen to it. Okay,
Yeah,
let's go. Let's go.
let's go.
indictment, which alleges the founders of Tenet created the company in conjunction with 2 Russian citizens with funding ultimately originating from the Russian government. Per the indictment, the founders of Tenet Media deceived the personalities they contracted regarding their alleged source of funding. I'll make a few points clear at the outset. At no point in my involvement with Tenet did I ever have knowledge of the allegations in the indictment. And 2, the only person who ever had any creative control over my videos was me. No one from Tenet or anywhere else ever dictated what topics I covered or what opinions I held. I always seek to fight disinformation in all of its forms, and therefore I have a duty to inform this committee that disinformation has been spreading within these very walls. Some in the media and even witnesses to this committee have attempted to paint a picture of Tenet as a hugely influential player in the political media landscape. This, frankly, is just not true. A previous witness to this committee who went unchallenged stated that Tenet Media controlled a network of over 16 million subscribers. This is not true. On their largest platform, YouTube, Tenet had barely over 300,000 subscribers. I believe the 16 million figure referred to the total number of subscribers among all of the personalities who had videos contracted or licensed by Tenet. Subscriber base is that, given all of the facts, Tenet had absolutely no control over. To claim that Tenet controlled those subscribers would be like claiming that a TV network had influence over the United States presidency because they air reruns of The Apprentice. The same witness claimed Tenet garnered over 1 billion video views and 20 billion impressions. I have absolutely no idea where those numbers came from. Very readily available public data shows that on its largest platform, YouTube, Tenet received only 16 million total views. Based on the witness's specious numbers, he asserted that Russia received extraordinary value for their money. Anyone with even a cursory understanding of new media would know, however, that $10 million for 16 million views on YouTube hardly qualifies as extraordinary value. In fact, it qualifies as a total failure. So there is, in fact, a silver lining here. If the allegations are true,
I like how Lauren is bragging at what poor results she delivered.
Yeah. Well, she makes every opportunity to kind of throw it in Parliament's face, like
Yeah, no,
how little they
we have a
know about
term in-
social media and the value
That's right.
one would get.
In
for-
Yiddish, we call this schlug. She's slugging them up.
I love a good slug.
She's slugging them up.
And they probably hate. I think they hate. In the comments in the YouTube version of this video, kind of confirm what we're both thinking. Like, she's the smartest person in the room. I think she wipes the floor with everybody there. She runs circles around everybody, and they're just like, but didn't they tell you what to say?
Years, Russia did attempt to influence Western media, but they failed pretty miserably. Now, I know the chief concern of this committee is how this debacle may have influenced Canadians. Well, I was the only Canadian commentator and the only host that consistently discussed Canadian issues. In fact, if the company had any creative control over me, which they didn't, they probably would have asked me to stop making Canadian videos since they didn't perform very well. So if you were worried about this alleged Russian money unduly influencing Canadian issues, good news, didn't happen. And I'll be honest, it has been surreal for me to watch our government, experts, and media assert that scripts I would jot down in my notes app in a line at the grocery store were secretly part of a giant foreign influence campaign. Arguably, the largest actual impact on Canadians here has been the amount of tax dollars they've had to spend investigating this non-issue. Some in the media and this government seem to have concluded that the only reason a regular Canadian could possibly hold certain views that do not align with the current Liberal administration is because of pernicious, widespread Russian disinformation. I would like to propose an alternative hypothesis, and I know it may sound insane. I know this breaches the borders of conceivable thought, but maybe, just maybe, some Canadians consulted their own moral compass and decided they don't want this country funding foreign wars. Maybe they looked around them at the hospital lineups or housing prices and thought immigration might be a little high. Maybe they lost their business during.
When I heard this morning, I don't really know much about what goes on in Canada. What foreign wars does Canada fund? Is that?
I think
I didn't even know they had extra money for that kind of thing.
Right. I wonder, God, could she be talking? They do ask her about Ukraine quite a bit. I didn't know. Is Canada helping to fund the Ukraine war? I thought we had a good handle on that.
That would have been my guess. But that's an important angle, right? Because Russia. Why does Russia want to influence politics in order to dissuade, presumably, the Canadian government from helping Ukraine? Okay.
This is on Canada.ca, military donations since the beginning of 2022. Canada has committed $4.5 billion in military assistance to Ukraine.
Whatever. But I do think that really is the political context here. Okay, I get it now. We figured it out.
And the more I listen to her, the more I'm like, I don't think she's nervous. I think she's pissed. I think she's just annoyed that she has to be here doing this.
Lauren has been pissed like for 10 years, though, right?
That's why we love her.
Well, and she also is entitled.
Do you think she's entitled?
I think so. I mean,
I think
she's had some tough breaks. I know that she has, to some extent, she has made the bed in which she lies. Maybe not the best metaphor.
She understands the repercussions of things she does and says, and is a big girl and can handle it. And yeah, I mean, I think when you're this smart and you're smarter than people in the room, like you can be maybe a little arrogant about it. She has, I think, well-deserved arrogance.
I'm on board with that. Yeah.
Lockdown and think, I worry about my freedoms in this country. Some in this government are hell-bent on drastically exaggerating the extent of foreign influence because they can't seem to stomach the idea that they might be wrong about something and that a growing majority of Canadians legitimately and organically oppose what they are doing. They simply can't conceive that they are becoming unpopular naturally, so there must be foul play at work. Let me make this abundantly clear once more. No one but myself and my true experiences as a Canadian have informed my opinions. And to any members of this government who may be listening, I would suggest you familiarize yourself with these opinions because they are rapidly becoming the views of the majority of this nation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Southern. So we start with the questions. Mr. Lloyd for 6 minutes.
Thank you. You answered my question, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Southern, for coming to this committee today.
This looks like everybody I went to
This
high
has been a
school
very
with.
interesting study, and I found your statement today interesting, and it answered a number of my questions that I was going to have for you, but I still have some additional questions.
That's a
The
you thing,
indictment
Dane.
itself, which you've read the indictment, I assume.
What's a you thing? His extra question.
That she answered questions he was going to ask. Like we shouldn't be under the impression that he didn't have really cool questions.
Right.
Like, why do I care that she answered your questions, Dane? Tell
Maybe
your family when you get home. Tell your staff.
Maybe he doesn't really want to be there. Maybe he actually agrees with her, and he's like, well.
You think the people of Sturgeon River - Parkland sent him there to announce what questions he? All right, never mind. Okay.
Yeah, like, oh, you're so good. You already answered my questions. I guess I could just go to the snack room.
Is that RT employees and Tenet Media used a fake persona named Edward Gregorian to deceive the commentators. Were you ever approached to make content by someone posing as Edward Gregorian?
No, the call I had well over a year ago now that signed me up for the company, I was told vaguely about a tech investor. I can't remember the exact name I was given, but I never spoke to someone named Edward Gregorian.
When were you first approached to do work for Tenet?
So let me just tell you, as a lawyer, and I'm not a Canadian lawyer, but this is besides the point. Lauren wants to be super cooperative, and she wants to come across as assertive and confident. But the question, really your job, even in a hearing like this, is to answer the question that was asked and not to offer up information that you were not asked about.
Nothing extra, because they'll use that against you.
Either they'll use it against you. Yeah, they might use it against you. You might be opening up doors that they're going to feel obligated to knock on. He said, did you speak to Mr. Grigori? Her answer was a very, very long version of no. The preferred version of that answer is no.
Instead, she said, oh, I spoke with somebody in tech. But I don't
so now
remember
they
the
know
name.
somebody in tech. What does that mean, tech? What other departments are there? Do people identify themselves by what department they are every time they spoke to you? And then she said, I don't remember the name. You don't remember the name? Is it possible that you might have written it down? The question was, did you speak to a Grigori? Not to my recollection. That name doesn't sound familiar to me. Just something to keep in mind for anyone here who might find themselves speaking to, whether it's a Canadian Parliament or something important like municipal court in the town where you live.
That's a good tip. Yeah, I wonder if, I'm sure Lauren must have spoken to a lawyer or two before doing this.
I would think so. Yeah.
Tenet Media.
I wish I could remember the exact date, but it would have been probably 4 months before the company launched.
Okay. And the indictment alleges that this Kalashnikov character edited your videos in the past. Like, is this true? One, and I'll continue. In the past, have you allowed others to edit your videos? Is this a common practice?
The editing process is just the cutting and
Process.
adding audio. In fact,
Very
adding
Canadian.
any
She's
sort of
speaking
text
Canadian.
that would be on screen or any sort of words said by me were entirely under my control. They had these individuals under the fake name editing the initial videos, and then I got an American editor assigned to me.
I thought you said pause. You said
No,
gut.
she said gut.
Which
I mean,
is Canadian for got. Yeah.
Yeah.
Later on, and I also edited some videos in-house. But once again, the editing process has no control over the actual content of the videos.
So you would sign off on the final content of the videos?
I would go in and I would say, cut at 2 minutes 30. It's going too long. Add a soundtrack at 3 minutes. I had full control.
So you can't say for sure whether or not this Kalashnikov person was involved in the editing at any time?
I mean, I don't know. They had, I believe it was someone under a fake name.
Why is she talking about fake names? Did anyone even ask her about fake names?
Yeah, that seems not helpful to her case. Why would someone edit your stuff under a fake name? That seems strange.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because when I do edits for my own material, I actually take on a fake name. But also I take off my pants. So it might be that different people do different stuff. I don't know. I mean, it would seem as if she is trying to distance herself from them and say, I never really trusted these guys in the first place. I have reason to believe they were using fake names, but I don't know about that. I don't understand that tactic. I don't think anyone asked her anything about fake names, and I don't see why she needs to bring it up, especially because she says, I don't remember what the fake name was. So I don't know who the name was of the person who did it.
Just say you don't know. How do you know that it was a fake name if you can't really necessarily prove it? It just sounds.
Well, I mean, she did remember that the name was either Bullwinkle J. Moose or Rocky Rococo. So she just had a feeling that one of them was not quite right.
Now, the U.S. indictment alleges that commentators were paid upwards of $100,000 to produce this content. How much was this? What you found in your experience was what content creators were being paid by Tenet?
This was one of the large surprises for myself when the indictment dropped. I was on $275,000 for all operations. That was not my personal salary. I was contracted to make 3 videos a week, news reports, and 2 mini documentaries. And I had multiple staff, including researcher and assistant. So this budget paid for my studio, flights, videographers, staff, myself. I only made around 100,000 Canadian for my personal salary. So if you want to do a separate panel on the wage gap and alleged foreign influence campaigns, we can certainly do that.
What sort of due diligence did you perform before you began working with Tenet Media? Like, did you ever question?
I think this guy likes her.
Where this kind of
I think he's a friend.
From?
Yeah.
Did you not find it at all suspicious?
Friendly. Once again, given the budget I was given and the offer I was given from 2 people who have worked in media and were employed by The Blaze, Lauren Chen.
Lauren Chen, who absolutely
this would be
made bank on this.
Company.
I wonder how much she
Why
made
did she
on
get
it.
so much less than Lauren Chen?
Was it 10 million? How much was the full amount?
The full amount, I don't know, but I know that I just know that Lauren Chen and Tim Pool and Dave Rubin, right? They were making 100,000 a week.
And Benny Johnson, yeah. It was a week? No, I thought was it not total?
No, I think it was 400,000 a month. I mean,
no, come on.
Number. All right, look, someone look this up and get it for us, okay?
I thought she said the whole salary that she
no, Lauren
offered $275K and her takeaway
that's our Lauren.
Yeah.
But Lauren Chen and Rubin and Tim Pool, they made vast amounts. I think I'm being backed up by Matthew Hammond here, which is pretty much usually the end of the conversation. Yeah, no, I think, believe it or not, I know. And I'll tell you, the last time I was with Tim, I had the feeling, I did have this distinct feeling when I was at his place that these guys have money they don't know what to do with.
Oh, you're talking about the skate park?
Yeah.
He had that skate park in the original house, though, too.
Well, the original house was also ridiculous.
You got to dream big sometimes, Ron.
I'm the wrong guy for that.
One day, I, too, will have a skate park near my studio.
Whatsoever. Once again, I was running a severely underfunded operation. In fact, at multiple points, I found it difficult to continue to make multiple documentaries each month. And to afford that, I needed more staff on board. And so I would apply for more funds and was told that the company simply didn't have them available, given it was a small startup.
And do you feel that you were taken advantage of in this situation? Do you feel you were deceived by Lauren Chen and Liam Donovan?
Well, I mean, I wasn't given the information in the indictment. So if it's all true, then yes.
That seems clear.
Yeah.
Chair,
go home and watch football.
How much time do I have left?
He's like, I'm done.
You still have 2 minutes left, actually.
Well, you actually answered a lot of my questions on this already, Ms. Southern. So I'll have to regroup and pass it on to the next speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
He's like,
Great.
yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. So the next speaker is Mr. Erskine Smith for 6 minutes.
You did answer all my questions after all that I mentioned that.
Oh. He's like, you know what? I kind of went to bed early last night. I didn't really make a lot of questions. I mean, I think you're adorable. I'm sure you're I'm I'm sure you're doing the right thing. You're very smart. In fact, if you want to have coffee after this, I am available. And yeah, no more questions from me. That's how he comes off. Love that guy.
Thanks very much, Chair. I just want to get back to the amount that you were compensated. You said you made $100,000 personal that you were able to take home with you, but what was the total amount before you paid out different contracts?
Out.
5,000 US.
Sorry, I missed that. It was 200 and something thousand US?
275,000 US.
Okay, and how many videos did you create for Tenet Media?
It must have been upward of 80. I don't know. I couldn't tell you the exact number, but quite a few. I had 3.
Okay.
Let me give you more specifics. I was contracted to do 3 videos a week and 2 mini documentaries a month.
Okay, and you said they only have 300,000 subscribers. Is that right?
Yeah, but what's more interesting to me is that it was only, I believe, a few months before the indictment dropped that they only had around 100,000 subscribers. And in fact, I had a documentary with the company that was at around 10,000 views for a long time. And mere days before the indictment dropped, it was at millions. So I think the numbers, and I know that there were ad campaigns done to promote the videos, but I think the numbers have been massively inflated by those who have an interest in exaggerating foreign interference.
But what was your idea of the business model here? Because I mean, they're paying you $275,000 US, and I know you're taking home 100,000 after that. But there are others with even more followers, and presumably going to get paid more as a result in their sort of stable of influencers. How are they making money off this in your view?
Well, I mean, I was the top contributor, so I was getting some of the top view counts at the site. I was hustling very hard to make sure my videos did well, trying to grow the company. I did not know the salaries of my peers, so I was under the assumption that they were getting paid the same, if not less, because I was doing a large amount of videos. So it made sense, certainly, that a startup from someone at a tech company could give the amount of money necessary. And certainly I was being asked to start doing advertisements at Tenet. And I assumed, the startup money must be drying up and they need to integrate ads into this. It certainly made sense from all the information I was provided.
And who was your main point of contact? Was it Lauren Chen was your main point of contact at Tenet?
No, I was typically Liam, but really, I was kind of just left alone as long as I was fulfilling my contract. I wasn't speaking to them that often.
No, but someone comes to you and they say, we want you to join this, and they make a pitch. You're not just going to join anything. So it was Liam that made the pitch and sold you on it?
Lauren made the pitch, and then Liam sent the...
Erskine Smith. I mean, we should be skeptical of any hyphenated name.
I was just about to say that. It's like, okay, we get it. Your parents are divorced, and now we're all paying the price.
No, he's probably from good Anglo-Saxon stock.
Or lesbian parents.
The contract's over.
Okay, so Lauren made the pitch. What was your relationship like with Lauren before she made the pitch to you?
Cordial. They're very friendly people. We had met in person before. We had, 10 years of knowing her in the same industry as me. She's always kind of just made pretty decent videos on YouTube and for The Blaze and various other companies.
She's
in your world. You've known her for 10 years. You've read the
This guy couldn't have pushed the bookcase out of the frame and then the strange woven candle, like that's so distracting to me. I don't know why people don't strike things from their set before they, and he's in Parliament. He should have a very serious looking background. I don't know why that bothers me so much. It's the hyphenated name and then the hanging sack candle here.
I do think first of all, if you can't come to work and you're a member of Parliament,
right,
you don't get to do it by Zoom. Come on. That's
right. What do you have, diarrhea? Why aren't you there in person? What's going on, Nathaniel?
Here, she and Liam are talking about the Russians and that they are aware of where this money's coming from. That must have sent chills down your spine that you've been working for Russian money.
we still, if I know anything about my time spent in media and people speculating both about the work I've done and personal life and all these things, it's that unless I was there, I don't know anything. I don't know what happened. And I'm not going to make comments about Liam or Lauren because I do not know the inside out of what went on there, other than the comments in the indictment.
So you weren't, right. So you read the indictment and you sort of shrugged then and you said, well, I wasn't there. I don't know that this is true. So it's of no concern.
I certainly didn't shrug. I'm not looking to work for any, I'm not looking to be an asset of any government, foreign or domestic for that matter. So no, I was not happy with the idea that I would be working for. I was certainly happy with the integrity of my work, all of which was done of my own volition, all my own opinions. And if there's any concerns by this committee about anything I may have published that was not factual, I'd be happy to correct that.
And that's the thing is I doubt that these people went and watched all or any of her content. They may have just breezed through a couple of videos because if they had, they'd be like, "Oh, she's really legit and smart and studied and very thorough in her work." And they're
I heard somebody say that a while ago when this first came out that this is such an obvious waste of money. And there seems to have been such a lack of due diligence, like you're saying, like in terms of how they selected the people and how and the return on investment, that it looked like a budget dump. Like these guys needed to use money if they wanted to get that allocation for next year. And they said, we will buy North American influencer. Pretty girl ones, also homo. And guy with knit cap. Because I can't. I mean,
man with beanie. Yes, good.
Wait, who was the beanie one?
Tim.
Oh, Tim. I said knit cap. I don't call that. I know that everyone calls his hat a beanie. This is a beanie. Okay?
Oh no, that's a yarmulke.
That is not a beanie. But all right, listen.
It's or a scully. People call it. So you think? At first, I thought you were saying this was a money dump for the Canadian Parliament. And you think it was a money dump for the company?
No, money dump for the the new version of the KGB, whatever they're called.
Whatever. They just were like, we have a lot of extra money. It's like your health insurance money at the end of the year. You're like, look, you got to buy glasses or contact lenses, or you're gonna lose out. You're gonna lose this money.
Yeah,
like
exactly. Lose it or use it.
Well, one thing, I don't know. I mean, one thing you said in your opening, you're talking about sort of people getting frustrated with this federal government, but you said one of your major examples was people who have lost business during the lockdown. I mean, sure, people were obviously very frustrated if they lost business during the lockdown, but you must know, having been very vocal on this, that it was provincial governments that
liberal,
right? You are aware of
big lib.
Beaches.
Sure, but there were plenty of
he talks like a beach.
acts by the federal government to shut down legitimate protests, shut down people's bank accounts.
No. Business. Sorry, you said lost my business during the lockdown. I mean, that's you would know. I assume that would be a provincial matter.
I think you're getting into semantics here. There are plenty of reasons
that would
to be
a
concerned
provincial
about
matter. Mr. Erskine Smith wishes to make it a point of order that would be a provincial matter. What a fag.
Big fag.
Provincial and federal governments are certainly not semantic differences.
I hate this guy.
Your views
he has small PP energy, that's for certain.
Nation. Do you think the Great Replacement theory is going to become
here's where it gets
of the majority
good.
of this nation anytime
soon?
What
a fag.
Depends what you mean by the Great Replacement theory. What do you mean?
Well, what do you mean by the
What do you mean? I don't know. What do you mean?
There's an active attempt to replace a white population with a non-white population. What do you mean by it?
I think that there are a lot of people that have concerns about the impacts of mass immigration, removing the culture in certain areas. I think you could ask people in Brampton or individuals in Surrey what they think about the language being spoke around them, whether it's a Canadian language whatsoever, whether they feel that their culture is being preserved.
I'm sure. Now, if I were on trial here, I'd say the Muzzies are taking over and everybody knows it. But she's a little more refined.
I don't think it's an insane concept. And in fact, I think many liberals would agree that many cultures and peoples have been replaced before by mass immigration, our indigenous population, not least of all.
You might think it's insane, though, to head over to Russia, speak with a neo-fascist Alexander Dugin, and then praise the guy to say
Sorry,
open
sorry,
so many doors
Mr.
for me.
Erskine-Smith.
You might think that's a level of insanity.
Mr. Erskine-Smith, sorry. No, the time is up. We're actually over a little bit.
He's like, I haven't been looking at the clock, and when I did look at it, you were 5 minutes over. So, whoops. It's like he just woke up.
I get to answer the question.
So hopefully another member, sorry, can give you time to answer the question, but we're actually already over the time.
Point of order, Mr.
Madam,
Chair. Point of order. I think it's fair to allow the witness to answer the question.
so I'm going to move on to Madam Michaud, and then Mr. Johns.
Point of order also.
If you'd like, you can give her time to answer that question from your time.
Point of order.
Yeah, Mr. Shipley.
We've been sitting in this committee for many months, many years now, and prior to you taking over that chair, that was always the policy. If there was a question asked that the witness did have a chance to answer, that was always the policy.
So I actually tried to stop Mr. Erskine-Smith from asking the question. I spoke while he was speaking.
Of some insane things, and I think.
So again, if members feel differently, then they can give the witness time to answer from.
I feel
on
like
their own
he,
time. Madam Michaud. Madam Michaud.
Turban Head here, I feel like he likes Lauren too.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Ms. Southern. I'm going to be
I think he's
speaking
just being
French,
trying. He's just
so
trying to be a
I
good
hope
guy.
that
doing his
you
job.
can hear me, that you can hear the interpretation. Thank you for coming here to testify. You mentioned earlier that you had 100% control over your videos. I really haven't had the opportunity to look at your videos.
I haven't looked at any
Oh,
of your
you would
videos.
love
Give
them,
us an
Christina.
idea of the subjects that you dealt with on the videos. And your understanding of why you were approached by Tenet Media in the first place. Why they would have chosen you to make 3
so
videos
stupid.
per week and several
This just like shows you why do they pick you? It's like you're not paying attention at all. You haven't looked at a single thing on her social media. You have no clue how good she is, how many followers she has. It's obvious why any media company would want to work with Lauren. Maybe this is just like a filler question. She's like, I don't know what to ask, so I'll just ask.
I don't understand why. I mean, if she also didn't do her homework for this meeting.
Yes.
documentaries per month. Just give us an idea, please.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to take 2 seconds to respond to the allegations that I'm an insane person quickly for interviewing Alexander Dugan. Given my inspiration for the interview was from TVO's The Agenda, Steve Piken, who interviewed Dugan. I don't think we would be calling him insane in this house. I think there is a deliberate effort to slander me for political purposes. Now, to answer your question as to why you think I would be picked to make these videos, I've made a lot of content over the past 10 years, multiple documentaries that have received millions of views and really encouraged a lot of people to consider ideas they haven't thought of before, like the plight of farmers in South Africa who are being murdered, or my film Borderless, which covered mass immigration to Europe from the perspective of immigrants who, quite frankly, were being screwed over and sold alive by human traffickers. I think that I have a long history of creating very honest journalism that addresses issues that a lot of people are too afraid to broach. And that's why I believe I was approached by Tenet to work for them.
Did you make videos about the Canadian policies, about politics here in this country, about the stance in Ukraine and Russia's involvement?
I don't believe I recall making a single video about the Russia-Ukraine situation, but I certainly made videos about Canada, and they were all based on my own experience living here as a Canadian. I made a video about housing prices in Vancouver, for example, something I have seen just go to absurd levels. I have families that live around me in my community who have been forced to live in trailer parks because the housing prices have gone so high. They cannot afford rent. I look at the inflation with groceries, families struggling to afford food because the taxes are so high, because of bad policy put in by this liberal government. And I make videos on these subjects. I make videos about the concerns of mass immigration without integration. You know, just a few weeks ago, I had a friend of mine almost lose her daughter's life because an immigrant that refused to get a proper driver's license smashed into her car, just missing her daughter, and then tried to intimidate her into not contacting ICBC. When we have these issues of mass immigration without integration, when we have these issues of so many foreign buyers coming into this country and inflating prices, when we have these issues of not putting the Canadian populace first, people want to hear these opinions. And I'm sorry to tell you once again to the people here who might think that this is all foreign propaganda. It's not. No one told me to have these opinions. I grew up in Surrey. I grew up in BC. I live in this country. I live paycheck to paycheck right now. You know, I struggle under this government, as many other Canadians do. And all of the opinions I put out here are my honest opinion.
So I think Russia paid her to talk about Canadian housing prices and the immigration problems. That makes sense to me. It's insane.
Insane.
Thank you. Could you explain the events that led to the criminal inquiry on the media and the allegations that have been
I'm
made?
sorry, I can't take you seriously as a member of parliament if you have a gigantic pink thermos that you drink out of. Like, I see you back there.
No,
like,
she's staff. She's staff.
Okay. Still unacceptable. This is, what are you, 10 years old?
That have been made about the videos. Were you surprised when it's all arose? Were you suspicious before this, how it started?
And I had no reason to be suspicious. Of course, I was surprised when the indictment dropped. I did not have knowledge of what was in the indictment. Once again, I can't comment to how this all happened because I was simply a contracted video creator. I just made videos for them.
Thank you. I certainly understand your situation, but you seem to be taking
she's speaking Canadian, and they're giving us the English feed. Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Of foreign interference that does exist, and Russian interference does exist in Canada at this time. Does that not concern you as much as it concerns me in terms of our democratic institutions? The fact that this does exist.
So crazy how just similar this sounds to our own like American liberal talking points too. I'm just like, wow.
Oh, please, Trudeau gets everything that comes out of the Democratic Party in Washington, has it freeze-dried and sent up north, for defrosting. It's the same exact crap.
It's just a human centipede.
I mean, it's the whole thing is ridiculous. Yeah.
I'm gonna get through a couple of these chats just because they've been sitting here for a minute. GJJ thanks for becoming a new member. Push-ups. If you doubt Russ wasted money, see Lauren Chen's stand-up.
Does Lauren Chen do stand-up?
She's dabbled. She has dabbled. Rhinoceros, like and Schlub, the impact of Trudeau having to ask us for cash must be tough. Thank you, Ryan. Slaglust. Hopefully Destiny was there to support her. Like, a lot of people commenting on the Destiny thing. Valiant Renegade Chrissy is slumming with Ron. Oh my God. What do you think of this, Ron?
Valiant is has to be respected. I see, he is one of your moderators, so it's not for me to second guess. I defer to moderators at all times. There's really nothing moderate about Valiant.
No. He's a polarizing figure. Matthew Hammond, our favorite. I cannot back this up, but I think Liam is responsible for all of this. I watched Lauren Chen's videos until Liam inserted himself in them. Really? Like his face? I haven't seen that in her videos. But I think she deleted her whole channel when this popped off.
That is so wild.
Well, no, YouTube deleted her channel.
That's also wild. I mean, what is that shit?
It's really scary. Rhinoceros, thank you for the orange boy. So instead of the Hague, should be properly named the Fag. Yes.
The Fag.
The Fag. Viking, thanks for the yellow boy. It's insane that they go after Lauren for this when Israel and AIPAC are openly allowed to do the exact same thing, but on a much larger and influential scale. Laws should apply equally.
I don't think anyone violated any laws here. That's what makes this whole thing a joke.
Mm-hmm.
If Russia wants to pay her, she would be entitled to actually do propaganda for them. I mean, maybe she would have to register, but it's in America, not in Canada, probably. But in a
Right,
free country,
propaganda is allowed here.
I don't see what the problem is.
Thanks,
But look,
Obama.
Viking obviously wants to get his noticer points in. So good. That cost him $10.
Thanks, Viking. Fealty put something in the chat. A discussion of the possible payouts. Is that something we want to look at right now? Let's see here. This is from the Daily Mail. Womp, 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 womp. A Canadian, how embarrassing, all my ads are here. Okay, a Canadian influencer who was, let me zoom in a little bit, who was accused of colluding with Russia in a propaganda campaign, refused to answer officials' questions as she's being facing. Okay, it's
Why
typo.
should she? Why should she? I mean, I can see both. I mean, Lauren Chen is definitely, I think, in more trouble.
Yes.
She was indicted in the U.S.
Yeah.
And I don't think Lauren Southern was. She was not.
No.
So if I were Lauren Chen, I would be quiet also, especially in an unfree country like Canada.
Yeah. Lauren Chen appeared before the Canadian House of Commons Public Safety and National Security Committee on Tuesday. This was written November 6th, so this was several weeks ago, after she was linked to allegations from the U.S. Justice Department. To the fury of parliamentarians, Chen continuously uttered the same 9 words after every question for 45 minutes. For the reasons already given, I have no comment. All right, so she has good lawyer help. The reason behind her silence was a U.S. indictment of influencers and an unnamed company believed to be Tenet, which is owned by Chen and her husband, Liam Donovan. The DOJ accuses 2 Russian nationals of setting up a conservative media outlet to push pro-Kremlin propaganda in the States. And there's Putin. Yes, Lauren Southern, you're doing everything as planned. Thank you. Yeah, right. Okay, let's see. Does it get to the money? Both Canada and the U.S. strongly value their right to be free from self-incrimination, Chen said in her opening statements. Chen gave the 9-word response even when asked to confirm her name and citizenship, leading to many politicians to become frustrated with her refusal to cooperate. Ms. Chen, unfortunately, I feel, is making a farce of this committee, Raquel Dancho said during the
wants
meeting.
to tell them?
Yeah, you guys are a farce. Pam Damoff, a Liberal MP, said she was deeply, deeply disturbed by Chen's behavior. Due to her refusal to answer, the committee sent a vote to the House of Commons on a breach of privilege against Chen, who may be forced to appeal in front of them. If the House agrees, she could be ordered to appear before the bar, according to CBC. The DOJ have alleged conservative influencers were duped into working with Russian assets, so they raked in hundreds of thousands of dollars for their videos under a sprawling $10 million covert project by Kremlin-backed RT, federal officials said. The bombshell indictment, unsealed in the Southern District of New York in September, accuses RT employees Konstantin Kashlanokov and Elena of Afansieva, bless you, of implementing a plan to shell out nearly $10 million to a Tennessee-based
Elena of Afansieva. I don't think it's of. I don't think people use that kind of name anymore.
No. Like Robin of Lockley, like Robin Hood. Tennessee-based company to churn out videos consistent with the Kremlin's interest in amplifying U.S. domestic.
Kalashnikov. I mean, that's obviously a fake name. He named himself after a rifle.
Oh, is that what that is?
A Kalashnikov. That's why a guy like me who doesn't speak Russian can roll that off his tongue so readily, because I'm an old Cold Warrior.
Oh, though the indictment does not name the Tennessee-based media company, it details match up exactly with Tenet Media, which employs well-known personalities like Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson. Let's get to the money. Okay, it's a whopping $8.7 million was sent to the production companies of Commentator 1, Commentator 2, and Commentator 3 alone. Commentator 1 is believed to be Dave Rubin. Commentator 2, Tim Pool. It's unclear from the description in the indictment who Commentator 3 may be. Could that be Lauren Southern? Was she the 3rd biggest? No, Benny Johnson is pretty big too. I think he's got. Does Benny have like a million followers on Twitter? He's pretty big.
Oh, he's pretty big, yeah.
Let me just confirm.
Mostly
here.
because he's been massively boosted by Elon the last year or so. I mean, Benny was always.
Benny's got 3 million. 3 million followers.
Yeah,
okay.
But he's like tripled since Elon. I mean,
wow.
He's one of Elon's faves.
Golden boys. Yeah, I'm sure
Hey,
that's Benny.
He's always never been unkind to me.
He's a great guy.
That I can't speak to, but he's never done me anything.
I just like that he posts a lot of his kids. That's very sweet. An exchange cited in the indictment also claims commentator 1 said the contract would need to be closer to $5 million a year for him to be interested, while commentator 2 said it would take $100K per weekly episode to make it worth it. So if they think Tim Pool is the one that's commentator 2, they think Tim would need $100K per weekly episode to make it worth it for him.
Can you fucking imagine that? I'm sorry.
That's amazing.
To make it worth it. Who do you know who $100,000 would be the only number, would be the starting point to make doing anything?
Wow, that's like an amazing salary for somebody to earn for a year. Wow.
Certainly for a week. All right, so but it is we understand Tim puts a lot of work into his production, and the Culture War show that he did, I'm sure took a lot of production work, but still, whatever total staff time and Tim time, was it more than 20-30 hours? Could it be? I mean, $100,000.
Yeah, I mean, he probably figures it has to be enough. If he can make more doing his own content on his own channel, then maybe that's his figure. One of the Tenet founders allegedly said the $100K fee would be very hard for the company to recoup the costs based on an ad revenue from web traffic or sponsors alone, but they decided to move forward with the agreement. Here's Lauren Chen in a disguise. It's just glasses. Another unidentified influencer contract, meanwhile, reportedly included a $400K monthly fee, $100K signing bonus, and an additional performance bonus. Eventually, payments from the Russians allegedly made up 90% of the deposits made to the company accounts.
Why would you do anything else if you were making that kind of easy
Oh
money?
my God. Yeah. And if they were treating the rest of them the way they were Lauren, like not butting in, not micromanaging them at all, not telling them what content to make, like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Like, just do what you're doing, but do some extra content for us. But that's a pretty good chunk of change there. All right, let's go back to the video. Did I lose it? No, here it is. Okay. Back to this French-speaking lady.
Can harm our institutions.
Once again, as I opened in my speech, there were individuals that were witnesses to this committee who went unchallenged, who claimed that Tenet Media made one of the number one podcasts in the world, the Rubin Report. The Rubin Report was created 10 years before Tenet even existed and had no association with Tenet Media. Dave Rubin, God bless him, his actual show at Tenet Media struggled to even reach hundreds of views.
Oh, shit.
And yet that level of misinformation is coming from within these very walls.
She's saying you suck, Dave.
Forgive me if I seem like I am downplaying what is going on, but there has been a great exaggeration to the point of lying within this committee about the level of foreign interference happening. And the biggest concern I have is the regular Canadians that I interviewed, that inspired my videos, that inspired my content, that are being slandered. Russian disinformation, rather than, the people here who might be disturbed by me correcting the record.
Ooh.
Thank you, Madam Michaud.
You go, girl.
She hates her.
Ms. Southern, before collaborating with other influencers, what steps do you take to ensure
This
the
guy
media
has Friar
in
Tuck
which you are
hair.
appearing is acting lawfully?
Oh, wait. Can we hear his question again?
Okay, yeah, I talked over it.
You did.
And bless him, his actual point of lying within this committee about the level of foreign interference happening. And the biggest concern I have is the regular Canadians that I interviewed, that inspired my videos, that inspired my content, that are being slandered as Russian disinformation, rather than, the people here who might be disturbed by me correcting the record.
Thank you, Madam Michaud. Mr. Johns for 6 minutes.
Ms. Southern, before collaborating with other influencers, what steps do you take to ensure the media in which you are appearing is acting lawfully?
What bullshit?
What steps do I take to ensure the media I'm appearing in is acting lawfully?
What does that even mean?
I don't think that, you know, as much as I would love to be able to afford a private investigator from every contract I sign, 10 years of working with someone in the same industry and 10 years of working with someone in the same industry and being given a very standard boilerplate contract that I would get from any other company. I've never had this happen before. And I think in retrospect, it's easy to say that I should have done more investigation, but what investigation would you have done in my shoes?
I think right. I think it's important to do due diligence, and you have significant following on social media platforms where misinformation can spread rapidly. How do you ensure that the content you share is not used by foreign entities to amplify narratives that undermine
what a
Canadian
fascist
democracy or
question.
national security?
Yeah, they just don't like that she has the following that she has.
I mean, she's smart enough to handle this, and she's doing a great job with it. But I think she's doing I mean, she's nailing it. But this guy's really full of it. And
are you accusing?
He has friar tuck hair.
Yes, thank you. It's like the front. I have to rewind this.
Guys, if you're bald, you're bald. Okay?
If you're bald, you're bald. Why are we hanging on to the bangs? What are you going to grow this out? And stop. Just either embrace it and do a Costanza. I don't know. Let this kind of go away. I think he should just bick the whole thing. He's at that point. Or wear a hat.
You have significant following on social media platforms where misinformation can spread rapidly. How do you ensure that the content you share is not used by foreign entities to amplify narratives that undermine Canadian democracy or national security?
That's not her job.
Are you accusing me of spreading narratives that have undermined
I'm just asking
democracy?
you a question, just like, you know, in terms of how do you ensure that the content you share is not used by foreign entities to amplify narratives that undermine Canadian democracy or national security?
It's giving her way too much credit.
What measures do you take?
I ensure that every contract I sign and have ever signed in media gives me full creative control of every single thing I say and publish. That's how I ensure it.
Well, there's concerns that individuals or groups may be
There's
unintentionally
concerns.
aiding foreign
Experts
governments in spreading
say.
divisive narratives. How do you respond to allegations that your online content has been used to further Russian propaganda or influence Canadian?
How do you respond to concerns? I myself aren't going to
As far
say
as
it.
I'm aware, just this
Just
month,
saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't have the concerns. People have the concerns. This is a good comment from Erica. She's not a governmental entity. State boards of administration have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure their investments are not made in companies with sanctioned counties. She is not a government. True. Okay.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced a pause to immigration or a decrease in immigration for the next 3 years, citing unsustainable growth. This is one of the critiques that has been my main critique on Tenet media and off Tenet media. And having it portrayed as Russian disinformation by this committee or even aiding and abetting Russians has been very interesting. I may understand I may have been right too early on this issue, and as so I must be socially punished by this regime. But although much too late, I happen to believe that Justin Trudeau is making the correct decision there. And I would hope that this committee wouldn't advocate Canadians stop drinking water or wearing seatbelts because someone with the last name Ivanov or Petrov suggested it was a good idea.
Ooh.
That's not what we're asking, but what is your stance on foreign interference in Canadian elections and political discourse? Do you believe there is a clear and present danger from foreign actors such as Russia? And if so, what responsibility do individuals like yourself bear in preventing the spread of foreign influence?
None.
Do you take
I was
any
a
responsibility?
commentator for a channel who had full control over the videos I made, and I ensured they were truthful. If you want to point to anything I've said that has been disinformation or aiding and
I'm
abetting,
actually asking what you believe. Do you believe there is a clear and present danger from foreign actors such as Russia? And if so, what
Sounded like you said
responsibility
porn
do you
actors.
believe
You think that was a
individuals
Freudian
like yourself
slip?
in your
Yes.
platform prevent aid in preventing the spread of foreign influence?
I think that it is rich that I am sat here and being asked what I have to do to stop foreign influence and foreign interference as a Canadian citizen, while we sit here with MPs like Jennifer O'Connell, who said boo-hoo to Conservatives who wanted actual elected politicians working with foreign governments to be exposed.
So I take it
I am
you
a
don't take any
regular
responsibility.
Canadian.
So, sorry, I take it you don't take responsibility.
one too.
I'm sorry, it's not your
Oh.
turn, Ms. O'Connell. I'm going to continue. How do
What a
you
dick.
reconcile your business model, which prioritizes user
Gord.
engagement and raking in massive profits from clicks, with the necessity to protect users from harmful disinformation that can lead to real-world consequences like hate-based violence?
How is anyone in this committee supposed to stop disinformation abroad if they can't stop it within this committee? Why wasn't Ben Scott, why wasn't he challenged when he cited false numbers about Tenet's views? Why wasn't he challenged when it was said that Tenet created the top podcast in the world, that they were getting billions of impressions? If we cannot stop disinformation within this committee, I'm sorry, but no one here is stopping disinformation coming from abroad or foreign interference.
What effects do you believe your content has on Canadians?
I think I speak for the majority of Canadians. I think I speak for people who don't have a voice in this government. I think I speak for people who feel they have been censored and shut up for too long by the mainstream media, and I'm proud of it.
So do you like, and I'm glad we're talking about how you personally feel. Can you speak about how you feel about your online content, you know, since it was aiding in objectives that were planned, plotted, and executed in the Kremlin?
What?
Would you say that Justin Trudeau's reduction of immigration was aiding and abetting the Kremlin? Should he be pulled here because he had the same
Oh.
ideas that I had?
I'm asking you, do you have any personal feelings that your
That
online
woman laughed
content
behind him.
was aiding in those objectives?
I do not. I disagree with that. I think I have very normal opinions that were all coming from myself. No one told me to have my views. No one forced me to have my opinions. My opinions are based on
I'll ask
living
you
and
about
growing
that.
up in this country.
Okay. Have you ever been in direct or indirect contact with Russian government officials, organizations, or agents?
I've spoken to RT before in the past,
Okay.
before the war.
So, you know, can you provide more information about the nature of these interactions, if any?
Yeah, I believe I've done contributions to RT before, as many did pre-war, including Larry King, including Michael Moore. I think the only interview I ever did that even had anything to do with Canada was a brief interview on the trucker convoy, which was a live report on events happening around me. And I would have been just as willing to share that report with the CBC if they had asked me.
Mr. Jones, that does conclude the first round. Thank you. We move on to the second round now. And Mr. Shipley, you are first.
They have rounds.
Thank you, Chair. and
It's like a
thank you
boxing
to
match?
Ms. Southern for being here
Ding,
today.
ding, ding.
Some of these questions have probably already been asked, but we'll make it a little repetitive. But if you could just give us a little more context to these. My first question is, have you ever been employed by a digital media company to create content before signing on with Tenet?
Yes,
Did you want to elaborate on that?
Rebel Media.
And before signing on with Tenet, had your content ever been monetized on YouTube?
Yes.
Yeah.
What
Even
was
Oh
the
my
budget
God.
on
Oh, have you
that?
monetized on
How did they
YouTube?
pitch this platform to you? Where were you? What were you offered? And what due diligence did you do before signing on?
They were colleagues of mine in the media sphere, working for various different companies. We had brushed shoulders at political events before, maybe only a handful of times. Lauren and I were fairly friendly. She called me and told me that they were starting up a new company, that they had an investor that was in the tech realm. And I wasn't that interested at first, to be honest. And then she called me a few more times and told me that it would be a totally free speech contract. I could do whatever I wanted. They sent me the offer. And at that time, I was looking to expand and hopefully be able to hire some staff to improve the quality of my videos, and being able to do so while having total freedom and control over the content I produce is, quite frankly, something you get at almost no media companies, very few anyways. So that's why I haven't worked at very many of the last 10 years, other than Rebel, which had a similar contract. But yeah, I considered myself pretty lucky to have found a startup company that was looking to give their creators full creative control.
You did travel to Russia in 2018 and published an extensive interview with Alexander Dugin, a man who is referred to as Putin's brain. During your trip to Russia, did you engage with any other political actors? Have you maintained a relationship with any individuals that you met in Russia?
Yes, during my trip to Russia, I did interview quite a few other subjects. I decided against publishing those interviews as I felt that there might be some influence on the direction of them. And I only published the Dugin one because I totally arranged that one.
Have you been back to Russia since February 24, 2022?
I have not been back to Russia.
You unlisted several
Russia,
videos from
Russia,
your
Russia.
YouTube channel on the topic of the war in Ukraine and your travels to Russia. When did you unlist these YouTube videos and why?
I actually enlisted significantly more videos than just those. Things that had to do with just life and relationships and various different topics. I have made a decision a few months ago that I want to take a break from social media altogether. I think the entire thing has become very unhealthy. And one of the ways that I engage with it now is if I go on social media, I remove content instead of add it. So you'll look at this. If you find my Instagram, there have been lots of selfies of me removed. If
I
you look
know.
at my
I've been
Twitter, there's been lots
tagging
of
you
tweets of mine
on
removed.
this.
So I go back and I
And
choose a
you're
video
ignoring me,
or a
Lauren.
post to remove instead of adding to it, since I think that we have really lost the thread of sanity on the internet these days.
Well, I think there's definitely some truth to that. I want
Yeah,
to keep
I
asking some
agree.
questions, but I'm just going to take a brief moment aside from that. And I do want to put a verbal notification of a motion. And that motion will be, given that it is reported this week that the families of Paul Bernardo's victims had been denied the right to deliver their impact statements in person at his upcoming parole hearing, that the parole board is now saying it is, quote, currently working to accommodate the in-person presentation of statements by victims, end of quote, who wish to appear at the November 26th hearing, that the committee invite the Minister of Public Safety, the chairperson of the Parole Board of Canada, the federal ombudsperson for victims of crime to appear separately for 1 hour each to testify on how these decisions are made and the process of determining whether they are unable to ensure safety and security of all hearing attendees, and that these appearances occur before December 17th. I'll speak very briefly to this because I do want to get back to Ms. Southern. I just obviously everybody's probably aware of what's happened this week with the French and Mahaffey families being barred from attending Paul Bernardo's parole hearing in person. Frankly, I was shocked and disgusted to hear this had taken place. The parole board stated they were unable to ensure safety and security for all hearing the attendees. Not sure why that would be different now when he was in maximum security. They were allowed to attend. Being moved into medium, they're now saying that security was going to be an issue. So we did hear from the lawyer from the families, Tim Danson. He stated, quote, it was nothing short of gut-wrenching to experience the painful and heartbreaking reaction of Debbie Mahaffey and Donna French when they learned that the PBC was prohibiting them from representing their daughters and themselves and denying them the right to confront Paul Bernardo in person.
Is there a commercial you can do now,
Going
Chrissy?
further in his letter,
Can you make
Yes.
some money for yourself?
Yes, we can. We can break for commercial. Rhinoceros, thank you. You are the king of the chat. Well, thank you for the
Really?
99.99. Oh my
$99.99.
God, this is like Tenet media money here. Thank you so much.
And I like how that penny was kept off to keep it away out of the Treasury regulations.
Yes. I am now under Ryan influence here. Look up the Smith-Munt Act immediately. Munt, like a munt. Let's see. Let's bring it up. Does this have to do with journalism? La, 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 la. The U.S. Information and Educational Act of 1948.
Oh, good times.
Popularly called the Smith-Munt Act, was first introduced by Congressman Carl Munt in January of 1945 in the 79th Congress. It was.
I'm gonna go get a bottle of seltzer while you read this.
Go get some seltzer. It was subsequently passed by the 80th Congress and signed into law by Truman in 1948. The act was developed to regulate broadcasting and programs for foreign audiences produced under the guidance by the State Department, and it prohibited domestic dissemination of materials produced by such programs as one of its provisions. The original version of the act was amended by the Smith-Munt Modernization Act of 2012, which allowed for materials produced by the State Department and the Broadcasting Board of Governors to be made available within the United States. I guess this has to do with propaganda.
Yeah.
This is the thing that Obama did, right? Where he basically allowed.
No, so what Obama did was that was a different law which prohibited the United States from propagandizing its own citizens. That's now allowed.
But now we can.
There we can. Arguably, we always have.
Yeah, good point. Thank you, Rhinoceros. Syracuse Bear. Can Coleman explain what a Mazitza Bipay is?
That's just an anti-Semitic crack.
Oh, Jesus.
I reported that. I don't know why we have to have that in your program.
Oh God. Okay, we don't like that.
Nothing at all to do with the topic here. If you want to, if anonymous scumbag Nazi basement Nazis want to ask me questions using their own names, I'm easy to find. But don't fuck up Chrissie's stream with your bullshit.
Let's ban him. I already forgot what his name is, but maybe one of the mods can boot him. George the Giant Slayer. Thank you, George. All hail, Ron and Chrissy. Love what you were both doing.
Hey,
Keep spitting out the facts. My best wishes for a happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you too, George. Good to see you. Okay. From Allegiant News. I love when West complains of foreign interference after we literally have propaganda networks like Voice of America.
America is not a foreign country. All other countries are foreign countries. And it doesn't matter where you are. All other countries, even if you're in Canada, Canada is the foreign country.
Yeah.
United States is the base country. No more questions like that.
Yeah. John H., is there any evidence that money influenced anyone? Thanks for sharing, Chrissy. I hope you and your new one are well and sleeping well. The baby.
But how new is that already? That's not
7
new.
months.
That's not new.
He's been here.
Ralph is newer than me, that's for sure.
Is there any evidence that the money influenced anyone? No, I don't think so.
There isn't even any evidence that they even tried to influence anyone. I mean, they didn't.
Yeah.
They got nothing for this.
It sounds like it was just like, continue to do the content you're doing, but we're going to pay you for it. Junior, thanks, Junior. These people are despicable now. I support Trump invading Canada and taking it over. Yeah, poor Canada. What's up, Viking? Chrissy should send Lauren one of her Ruin for Putin shirts. Yes, those aged quite well. That was funny. Yeah, no one's asked me if I have a Russian influence. I need to make more money.
Because they don't know what kind of money you're making on this.
Yeah, t-shirt money.
To the Corrections and Conditions Release Act, which he said enshrines the right to in-person's victim impact statements. Mr. Danson also stated, it is incredible how the system is there to assist.
I meant for you to do this while he was yakking about this complete.
Oh, whoops. I'm going to go get another seltzer. Okay.
I just, as I said,
my seltzer's frozen.
Verbal notification, please.
Frozen seltzer.
Yeah.
Does that actually? What is that like as it melts?
It doesn't do a great deal of good for the seltzer because it does melt bubbly, but by the time it's all melted, you end up with pretty much watery stuff in there.
Okay. Interesting.
I got a cheap refrigerator for this office.
Oh, so it's like the kind of thing where like the ones in the back get frozen.
The ones in the back, that's right. And because I was spending Harmeet's money, I didn't feel like I should just buy just whatever I wanted, you know.
And now you're drinking frozen seltzer.
On notice, and your time is up. Next, we will move to Ms. Damoff.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Southern, for being here today. I want to go back to your trip that you took to Russia in 2000.
Wow, look at this. She's got this whole, she's on this side all by herself. And then it's like all these people. Oh my God, there's a guy wearing a mask.
Oh, you're kidding. Another fake.
This woman is like, it's kind of sad when a woman has really bad thinning hair. She should probably get a wig. This guy too needs to just shave his head at this point. This guy's like, why do I have to be here? Some of these people have a case of the Mondays.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
18. Who paid for that trip?
I paid for it.
You mentioned that you did several.
Oh, this woman is the worst.
Those interviews?
I was not paid to do any of those interviews.
So I mean, it's come up who you interviewed while you were there, Alexander Dugin, who not only has been referred to as Vladimir Putin's brain. Actually, before I ask you this, how did you get an interview with him?
I watched an episode of The Agenda with Steve Piken where he interviewed Alexander Dugin, and then at a either earlier or later date, he also interviewed a translator of Dugin's, who was a University of Toronto PhD student. And I contacted either him or one of his translators and got his email and said, Mr. Dugan, could I conduct an interview with you? And in a very brief response, he just said yes.
So I just want to read in 2014, Dugan said Russia
That's
should,
so
quote,
impressive,
kill,
by
kill,
the way.
kill
No one's
Ukraine.
like, wow, you scored an interview with what I feel like is a hard to get high profile figure just by reaching out to the interpreter. That's really smart. Just no comment from them.
He's previously been involved with Pomyat, which has been described as the most significant anti-Semitic organization since Perestroika. He's expressed his admiration for the SS, adopting the alter ego named Hans Sievers, named after the war criminal, who was general secretary of a Nazi research institute that Heinrich Himmler established. I'm just curious.
I know
you've mentioned Steve Paikin
I'm
a
just
number
curious.
of times, and I had limited time to look here, slightly different than the interview that you did. I'll just be honest. Why would you want to platform someone like that?
To platform.
The exact same reason Steve Paikin did and TVO did, because he is an interesting geopolitical figure, and I was more right than I bargained for initially at how interesting he would get. When I watched the TVO interview and when I watched the work of Michael Millerman, one of his translators, they kind of figured these ideas of.
Do you agree with his views on Ukraine?
What an absolute grunt.
Grunt. That's great. Like a combination of a crumb and a like you have to agree with the views of people you interview.
This woman is execrable.
She's the worst. Terrible haircut.
Right? No, I don't think we should kill the Ukrainians. On the contrary, I think we should be trying to not kill anybody. Not a big fan of killing people, Ukrainian or otherwise.
And do you prescribe to his anti-Semitic views?
No. Once again, you're interviewing me right now. Do you agree with all of my opinions?
No, I find some of them quite offensive. I'm just curious what a Canadian language is. Is that Ojibwe and Cree?
Typically in Canada, our national languages.
Boy! Sick burn!
Hold on. This is a low production value show. I'm gonna rewind that.
His anti-Semitic views?
No. Once again, you're interviewing me right now. Do you agree with all of my opinions?
No, I actually find some of them quite offensive.
I'm
just curious what a Canadian language is. Is that Ojibwe and Cree?
Typically in Canada, our national languages are English and French. I kind of figured this was common knowledge in here, but
it's not, because you guys are retards.
Well, I guess, it's funny. I was just in.
She's trying to make the case like, the immigrants, they're not Canadian too. It's like, stop it. We all know what Canadian is.
Baltic countries, and met with the NATO Center of Excellence on Strategic Communications. And a lot of what you put out aligns perfectly with the type of Russian misinformation that I heard about, particularly around immigration. But anyway, that's just a comment.
Nobody has anything specific. Not one of these people have been like, hey, in this video I watched of yours, you said this. And they can be like, well, isn't this similar to, another video I saw that's Russian produced? Like, they can't point to a single example of any content she's created to make their case. It's all just like, it just seems like all these people, like, it's like a pop quiz and none of them studied. That's how they're all coming off.
You have been, you keep referring to Steve Paikin and the fact that he did an interview with someone. You went to Russia, if I'm not mistaken, you were barred from going to the UK. Is that correct?
Yes, I was barred from going to the UK.
And why was that?
That was because I tried to set up a pride parade in Luton, and the Islamic population there typically are not a big fan of that.
That's hilarious.
And I was told that it was stirring up hatred.
And so you went to Russia to stir up hatred against Jews?
What a bitch.
I'm so sorry. What are you referring to?
Look who you deliberately made a trip to Russia to interview someone who is one of the most anti-Semitic people around. Is it just to be controversial?
What-
Is that do you find that funny?
I do
a
find it funny that you were accusing me of.
I gotta rewind this. This is like she's really struggling here.
Why was that?
That was because I tried to set up a pride parade in Luton, and the Islamic population there typically are not a big fan of that. And I was told that it was stirring up hatred.
And so you went to Russia to stir up hatred against Jews?
I'm so sorry. What are you referring to?
Look who you deliberately made a trip to Russia to interview someone who is one of the most anti-Semitic people around. Is it just to be controversial? Is that do you find that funny?
What part? Yeah, I do find it funny that you were accusing me of taking a trip to Russia to stir up hatred around Jews when I don't think Jews came up once during my interview with Alexander Dugin. I don't know where you're getting that from. And once again, Steve Piken conducted an interview with him. I guess you would have to make the same anti-Semitic accusation against TVO.
Miss Southern, his views are well known, and you deliberately went there, so you're basically trying to create chaos.
Wow.
Funny thing is,
Create
that's
chaos.
what they say Russia does.
Yeah,
with
Lauren
all the
does
things
that.
they
She's
do, is
always
try
such
to
a big
create
chaos
in
creator.
societies.
That's. I mean, I think they're giving her too much power here, right? It's just.
So, it sounds like your goal is to try and create chaos.
She's
and,
equating intellectual curiosity with something negative. It's
She's
like
a
this
whore.
whole. It's this whole. She's a whore. It's the whole mainstream media that remember we would hear after. I guess in between 2016 and 2024, where people like Rachel Maddow would be like, "Oh, well, Trump had a rally, he spoke, but we're not going to play his speech. We'll watch it. And if there's anything interesting, we'll let you know." It's very similar. Like, why would anybody go and seek something out for themselves?
I mean, really, it's like this is like also Stalinist. Just is it not true that you spoke to provocateurs who were British spies who infiltrated the Workers' Committee? I mean, it's such amateur, heavy-handed crap.
It's all such bad faith.
I don't get the sense that you have a lot of respect for Western liberal democracy. So anyway, that's my time, Chair.
If this is Western liberal democracy, I don't have much respect for it either.
Yeah, how can anyone respect these people?
Madame Michaud, pour terminer tes amis.
2.5 minutes, Madame Michaud. Thank you very much, Chair.
But of course.
I just like to come back to the monetary.
I'm so sorry. I forgot my microphone. And then she just puts a croissant up to the thing. Like,
issue that was addressed earlier. You said that Tenet Media gave you a $275,000 US dollar budget, and you're
No Canadian dollar. No Canadian dollar.
That's what you earned for yourself.
You stupid francophone Canadian.
Did anybody at any time ask you to reimburse that money when Tenet was closed, when there were allegations?
Why would she return it? She did. She was paid to make content. She made the content. She's just basically getting her to say, like, no, I kept the money I was promised.
Meet any by the RCMP or CSIS or any type of security service that you met further to that?
So I have not been asked to reimburse any of that money, but I have been visited by CSIS, who quite frankly have been putting immense psychological pressure on me to become an informant on this subject and other subjects. Ultimately, I declined because I'm not looking to become an asset for foreign governments nor this government, and I did not like the way in which they threatened and stalked me. And I would like to know how much Canadians paid for that, by the way.
Je vous remercie. Thank you. In the UN reported last September, in February 22, that Russia had begun an illegal war on Ukraine.
Ooh, first I'm
There
hearing.
were more
Ooh.
than 11,000 civilians killed, and
But her
many
content
other
doesn't cover the
thousands
war.
that were injured. That's a lot of people. What would you think about being an agent for this type of country that would wage this type of war on another country? Does not that put you ill at ease?
An agent.
You will never catch me speaking ill of the Ukrainian people. They are good people, and it is horrific what is happening to them and the losses that are happening to their community. And I hope that the suffering
Good
they
for
are
you,
going
Lauren.
through ends.
Lauren,
And I hope that the
doesn't-
Ukrainian people will be free.
people are under a misapprehension that if you're either a tool of Putin or you're a tool of Zelensky.
Hmm.
And there's no reason you have to be a tool of either one of them. You could, and Lauren's entire approach has been throughout this. I mean, I've never spoken to her about this topic, but throughout her questioning here is that she's not in favor of either side in this war. It's a war, and wars are harmful, and she'd like to see less harm take place. And she's not going to let anyone take for granted the idea that because she's denying that she's that she's an agent of Putin, that automatically
Right.
she's
Doesn't mean she's pro Zelensky either.
right.
And
Or
it's good that
anti.
she's-
Or anti.
Right. And it's good that she's taking the opportunity to like be a human here and be like, no, this is horrible.
Am I simping too much for Lauren?
No, I think we could simp more for Lauren, and she's gorgeous.
She is. She
have never wanted to be an agent of any state, an asset of any state, foreign or domestic. And I have always, at any inkling that that is happening, have run the other way.
Merci. Mr. Johns for 2.5 minutes.
I really only have one burning question left, and that's, do you take any steps whatsoever to verify that the people paying you are legitimate and don't have ulterior motives?
This would not be a question
That's
being
rich.
asked of any individual working in media, if not for the retrospect of this situation. I've had contracts, I've worked with many individuals. They have all looked the same as Tenet, and they have never come up with this problem. This is a very unique circumstance. And once again, I think the eyes of retrospect are playing heavy on your questioning.
Well, I think given the situation and that you're under the Tenet's been under investigation with the U.S. government, I think it does qualify as a reasonable question.
So
if you think that there was a action I should have or could have taken that the average person would normally do, please do let me know, Mr. Johns.
Will you take any in the future? Will you be doing any significant efforts to ensure that that the people are paying you are legitimate and don't have ulterior motives? Is this something that you're going to incorporate into your future business model?
I have always worked very hard to ensure that the things I am doing are legitimate, that I'm not being influenced by anyone. I've lost jobs over this. Now, there is a lot of money, as I'm sure you know, probably not the majority coming from Russia, probably more from China, other countries going into politics, going into media, going into influencing what people think. The way I protect myself from that, because it is a completely messed up and influenced media organization system going on right now, ecosystem, is I only sign contracts with people who give me full creative control, because right now in this environment, that is the only way to protect yourself. If you are ever working for an organization that has creative control over you, you're going to find yourself in hot water. And quite frankly, that is the majority of media outlets within this country too.
Okay. So right now, you're telling us right now that you're not going to take any different steps to ensure that the people that are paying you are legitimate and don't have ulterior motives.
Wow.
The steps I'm taking is I'm not going to work in media again, because I am tired of this subterranean Fed level nonsense going on. And I would like to just go on with my normal life as a Canadian, not being harassed by CSIS or the government or you people.
You people.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. Mr. Motz for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Southern, for being here. My questions aren't intended to harass, but rather find out some information. Now, you're described as a social media influencer, someone who is a political activist and a commentator, but What are your objectives when you what do you aim to achieve when you connect with an audience?
My aim has always been to
Hell, what business is
Whoa.
this?
people that don't feel they have
Why
had a
does someone
voice
do content?
in the main.
Why do you do what you do? Why? Why do you create things?
Is
that
this
are
the actor's studio? What's What's your motivation?
Tell
Laura?
me about your creative process.
Stream media or regular media, and to convey facts. You know, I'm a human being. Everyone that does media is a human being. I don't want people to follow me like I'm some sort of god and take everything I say as their opinion, 100% influence. I want to provide as much factual information as I can, data from my own research or from on the ground, and let people take that information and look at a variety of different sources and come to their own conclusions. That is my hope for the work that I have done.
So you said this briefly in your opening, I believe, and in an answer to some of my colleagues' questions, but what motivated you or prompted you to start collaborating with Tenet Media? Was it the friendship only, or was it something else?
It was
They
that
pay your money.
Usually,
Come on, are you retarded? Why do you make videos? Why do you accept jobs?
Why do you make your bed in the morning?
I'd be like, why do
You're just
you
gonna get
work
right
for
back.
these?
You're just gonna get back in it.
You're just gonna get back in it at the end of the night or earlier if you take a nap. I would be like, why do you work for these people? He comes off like an out of touch dad trying to get to know his daughter. Like, so what is this you do on the computer with the internet and whatnot?
Very good to be working
How do planes work?
a company when you are in the social media content creation environment. I'd been independent for so long, and it's very hard to do. It's very hard to fundraise for a studio, for equipment, to do films. And I wanted to expand the type of films I was doing. And although, once again, it was underfunded, it was a larger budget for me to be able to do more interesting and higher quality work than I was doing before.
Fair enough. Now, you had indicated that that you always put significant efforts into making original and thoughtful videos, and that your contract gave you full editorial control. You've made that very clear today. Now, have you ever been compensated to endorse a specific idea?
No.
On anything?
No.
From anywhere? No. Have you ever received information or from another organization, an individual, or a government for you to share that on your social media platforms?
No, other than not paid for. I've certainly had lots of people send me, hey, share this tweet. I just did an interview, share this. That's a very normal thing to happen in media.
I don't know how much time I have left, but two thoughts from your.
Really, how many of us know how much time we have left?
You indicate that when you were.
Maybe I hear those words differently from the way you do, Chrissie.
I know. It goes without saying, none of us know how much time we have left. I could walk outside here today after this and get hit by a bus. And hey, you know what? Maybe I would welcome the bus. I wonder if his questions are to make her look good. Like, hey, has anyone ever made you I almost feel like the questions he's asking are to let her off the hook a little bit.
I think somebody in the chat suggested that he's a conservative, so he's probably much more sympathetic to her.
Yeah.
Than some of the maple leaf. The maple
leaf fuckers in there. And he's like, you know what? You remind me of my daughter. I don't understand what the hell she does either on the internet all these hours.
Were in Russia, you had concerns about some other interviews you had done, and you chose not to broadcast or release those interviews, and you didn't explain why.
There was an individual that had told me they could set up interviews in Russia for me, and initially I was excited about this because they were able to get access to quite prominent figures, but as things went on, they were pushing me to do content and work, which once again, I don't, if anyone I feel is pushing me to share ideas, I push back, including, quite frankly, they were trying to get me to go and do a film on the Donbass region before in 2018. I found this strange. Obviously, I didn't know there was going to be an invasion that would happen at any point, but being offered all access to that area, military access, seemed suspicious to me, and I rejected
That is
doing the film,
suspicious.
and I deleted all the other interviews that I conducted, or refused to publish them, rather. That was in connection with this individual.
Thank you for that clarity. In my final moments, you made a very direct and scathing comment about the current, your opinion of the current media landscape in this country. Can you expand on that a little bit? Obviously, there's, and other people have concerns as well. So can you expand on what you're referring to in your description?
I have been doing YouTube for 10 years. When I started doing YouTube, it was individuals that were interested in sharing their opinions and beliefs without compensation, that genuinely cared about issues. Over the past 10 years.
What I'm referring to is, you talked to Mr. John's question, you talked about receiving compensation, and you made reference to the media outlets that
mainstream
exist
media.
today,
Yes.
the national media outlets receiving compensation from potentially places in this globe that are hostile to our democracy in Canada.
Yes, what I was getting to is I believe there is I would have to give a written response later with the details, but based on my time, sorry?
Could you?
Yes, I can. Based on the time I've spent in media, over those 10 years, I believe that a large majority of content is being influenced both from corporations, domestic
What do
government,
you
foreign
mean?
government.
Like Harry Sisson isn't genuinely a huge Kamala Harris fan? I don't believe it.
Being paid for. I would say that even half the contributions, likes, and views on content are now all botted, not legitimate, genuine views. They're being astroturfed. And this is part of the reason that I am personally stepping away from by partaking in social media myself,
Aw.
because I don't believe that a lot of the internet we are engaging with today are real people. It is very different. You can feel it if you spent time on the internet 10 years ago.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Motz. Ms. Zahid, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Southern, have you been contacted by Canadian or American law enforcement about your role in the Russian-run Tenet media op, given the U.S. indictment?
Yes, as I mentioned, CSIS came to my house while I was making dinner for my child and tried to.
Isn't that weird? I heard her say that
speak with
this
me,
morning.
but
Why did you say from my child? Don't. I said, why did that sound funny to me? Why not say from my daughter?
Daughter
from
or son. Yeah.
From my, like, it sounds.
Maybe she's not. She's trying to like keep that ambiguous. Maybe she doesn't want to give like that specific
because
information.
right. Because what if someone would guess right? Then they would know that she either has a boy or a girl. Oh no, I'm sorry. What am I saying? I'm sorry. It's 2024. Okay.
my baby. She should have said my baby. I'm gonna let him or her decide their own gender eventually.
did so in a way that I was not comfortable with. And I have also, quite frankly, experienced quite a bit of harassment and stalking from them. When I told them I did not want to speak, they called me dozens and dozens of times. They found my gym. They told me that
That's
if I did not essentially become an informant for them, that I love being a mother, I love my child, and I would love to see him grow up and be there to provide for him, and it would be a shame if something happened to me. So I'm not too impressed with the state of law enforcement in this country right now, to be honest.
That sounds like a threat.
Are you aware that the content you created for Tenet Media Russian disinformation campaign is still available on Tenet's Rumble page?
I have no control over that, but sure.
Yeah, like I don't know what they
Have
do with my
you,
stuff.
spoken to Lauren Chan or Liam Donovan since the U.S. indictment?
I have not.
What?
You have no relationship with them?
I have not spoken.
She's asking if she spoke with Lauren or Liam since the indictment. And then Lauren said, no, I haven't.
Spoken to them since the indictment. No.
Will you use this opportunity today to call on Tenet to remove any and all content created by you from their Rumble and X accounts?
No, all the content I made was of my own volition based on my own opinions and free speech. So I'm happy for that content to still be out there. Quite frankly, I spent a lot of money making some beautiful documentaries in which hardworking Canadians are featured who put themselves out there and are now being slandered as Russian disinformation. And I
Wow.
think that's a real shame.
TikTok, Meta, and YouTube have all removed Tenet Media from their platforms using the U.S. indictment. X, formerly known as Twitter, has not. So why do you think that is the case?
I have no idea. I don't work for these social media companies.
Knowing
Good
what you
answer.
do now about about the Tenet Media and where their money was coming from, would you do anything differently?
Yeah, I wouldn't have worked for them if I knew where the money was coming from.
Ooh, big admission.
I'll pass my time to Ms. O'Connell.
Thank you.
That's interesting.
Chair,
How
I move
so?
to resume debate.
Well, is it illegal in Canada for her to have worked for them? I mean, she hasn't been indicted. She hasn't been.
Right.
I mean,
Is she? Yeah. Is it?
it sounds like she's saying. I mean, all right. I mean, I give her credit. I give her credit for saying that. I mean, I might have said
Like it shouldn't have mattered.
right, because she's saying they paid me to do what I was doing anyway, and frankly, I'm trying to raise a family.
Yeah.
All right, good for her.
Maybe they've worn her down.
On the amendment to the motion proposed by Mr. Morantz.
Okay,
And then
that's it there. Interesting. Well, okay, let's go to. I wonder if this will be it. If they'll call her in again, or if this is it for her. Let me pull up the YouTube version of the video. I want to see what some people are saying in the comments. These politicians are garbage. Lauren Southern is the smartest person in the room. Not even smarter, just more honest. And it wasn't even close. These people are clowns. That a talent like Lauren Southern lives paycheck to paycheck is criminal. Lauren handles herself so well.
How about a talent like me?
Yes,
Also
you do,
also
Ron.
criminal.
You also should be rich and famous. Lauren shows she is more intelligent and principled than most politicians in the room. She's amazing. It's pretty frustrating to hear that the NDP and Liberal members try so hard to steer the conversation when you know they themselves are hiding 40 plus MPs who've actually worked with foreign entities. Also, they just sound like crusty boomers who don't know anything about social media. Lauren truly wipes the floor with these regime sycophants. Well done, Lauren. Pam Darnoff, remember when you stood and applauded an actual SS soldier in Parliament? If I was a Canadian citizen, I'd be far more terrified over the damage my leaders could and are doing than anything Russia could do. This is the most insane line of questioning from people who are supposed to be government administrators I have ever witnessed in my entire 49 years on this planet. No wonder Canada is in such total disarray. Yeah, these are all positive comments. She's amazing, true patriot. She's a hero.
But this is your right wing following, so that's not.
I don't have control over these comments. These the comments.
Right. That's exactly what Nick Fuente says.
They would say. And she seems like, oh, fuck it. I'm just done. I'm done with social media. I'm done. It's a shame because I don't know. She's very smart and good at what she does. Push-ups. Yeah. Chrissy interviews flat earthers and she doesn't agree. Oh, never mind. Oh, push-ups. I just think it's fun to think about. 300-yard wink. The only Indigenous we hear in Canada is drunk. Okie dokie. Allegiant News. Should she reimburse this money back to Russia? I don't know. I don't think so. No, it's the money she took to do the kind of content she was already making. She wasn't compromised in how she made the content. So
no, of course not. It's ridiculous. I do wish she would have actually answered that one that way. Why would no one's asked me to? It was I think what she said, but
could they, Ron, somehow get her to pay that money back to someone? The Canadian government, perhaps, or
I don't know Canadian law, and I don't think Canadian, I mean, they seem to be able, look what they just did to, look what they do in these countries. Like, we think these countries are just like our country, but they have no First Amendment at all. I mean, we have one except in Washington, D.C., but generally it works in the UK and in Canada, where the Parliament can do whatever the hell it wants and the government can do whatever it wants. It's awful.
Yeah, I
It's
hope they
awful.
just don't try to shake her down. Michael,
Well, she's a tough cookie.
she is. She's like a biscotti. That's a tough cookie.
I see what you did there.
Michael Sallow. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Michael.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
In summation, yes, Lauren Southern is a tough cookie. It's interesting. I don't know. I would like to believe that none of them had any clue this was happening, including Lauren. But I'm not on the inside of this, so
you should all thank Chrissy for putting this together on no notice.
Ron was given no notice at all.
No, I was just sitting around all night waiting for someone to ask me to do a read through of this. So Chrissy stepped up and worked out great for me.
Thank you, Ron, for sharing your brain with us and the chat. I appreciate it because
you know, I have so much that doesn't even get remotely used in the course of a day. So
it's like the ocean. It's really only a small percentage is really known to humankind.
And you're just talking about area. Let's depth. I mean, forget it.
And the creatures that dwell.
Yeah, well, yes.
I hope they're gonna be okay. All these people. It's very shitty. It kind of reminds me of the kind of horse and pony show they bring out whenever somebody in Canada, like makes fun of somebody, and they can be like, "Oh, we didn't like this joke. It's hate speech," and then they bring them to.
It was ridiculous.
Court.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you know what else? It's like, the Americans did an indictment. Like,
what are you talking about?
It's not even. If your law enforcement wants to do something, then I can see having a hearing. But what the hell is it? Either if it's a legal matter for Canada, get the Mounties to do an indictment, okay? But if the U.S. Justice Department is doing it, I think you guys can go back to to your regular stuff, regulating farmers or arresting Jews on the street for taking pictures, whatever it is.
Yeah. Oh, Legion News. One final super chat. Let me send the money back to Russia. If not, let me donate it like politicians do when caught getting money from bad people. But she's not a politician. Does she really owe it to anybody? I don't think so. I think she should keep the money because she didn't know where it was coming from, and her content was not corrupted or made in any way different.
That's what she's saying, and no one has come forward with any grounds for suggesting otherwise.
Yeah, they're just trying to strike fear into people. And,
they're bad people.
They're bad. Canadians are just bad people, with very few exceptions. One being Mr. Frankie McDonald, friend and famous Canadian weatherman.
No, everyone has a.
Oh, that's right.
Everyone knows a few good Canadians.
Viva Fry, obviously Lauren Southern is a good Canadian.
Viva's okay, but he hangs around with Barnes. That raises serious questions.
You don't like Barnes? What's he been up to lately?
Well, he was in the hospital, so I think he's doing better now.
Oh,
I didn't get the deets on that, but he's a robust man.
Oh yeah. We all could stand to lose some lbs. Okay, this was good, Ron. Thank you for joining. Thank you to the chat for your
a real pleasure.
Intelligent questions. Some of you were intelligent, some of you
were pains in the ass, but it was really overwhelmingly positive, and it's great because Chrissy and I really love to cut it up.
We love each other, and we love you guys. Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Follow Ron on YouTube at Ron Coleman Law.
Yeah, right. That would be nice. Why not?
Why not? You're here.
Cost
You're
you
here. Your
anything?
fingers are out. Just go ahead and do a couple more clicks
Does it really? I'm
before
not
you
going to turn you into a Jewish.
before you put your fingers away for the night. Go to Ron Coleman Law on YouTube.
I don't even want to
click
think about what she means by that. Good night. Good night.
Good night. Lauren Chen has not been charged yet. Okay, good. Thank you
Oh,
guys.
okay.
We will talk to you next.